everybody. We're rocking and rolling in a moment. Everyone, hello. Hello, Miss Kristen. I just saw you just now. Hello, ma'am. Hello, Miss Elizabeth as well. To IBSI's Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I'm Dumisani Washington, the CEO and founder of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. So glad to be with you on today. I can see I'm shaking my camera already because I was moving my desk, so my apologies. We are going live. We are live on all of IBSI's social media, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, everything else, YouTube, not yet, but next week on Rumble as well. But we're so glad to be with you all here on today. Our apologies again. We put out a little bit of a notice, but it wasn't broad enough. We did not have our forum on yesterday. On last week. It is each Monday at 8 p.m. Our family, though we are Christians, observe the feasts, if you will. And so we were with our family during our Seder as well, something we've been doing for 30 plus years. Shout out to Congregation of Zion out there in Stockton, California. I know you all had yours as well, and I'm sure it was beautiful. Chag Sameach to all of our Jewish brothers and sisters. We're glad to be with you on today. We got a lot to get into on today, so you're kind of stuck with me on today. Forum is hosted by your director, Joshua Washington, and or one of our board members, Olga Mashoy Washington, my daughter-in-law. Joshua is on his way to California. So joedavimusic.com, he'll be on tour in California. So Cali, he'll be out there with you in Sacramento, Napa, LA, San Jose. So if you go to joedavimusic.com, you can find out about where he's going to be featuring his song, his album Zion. My son's been writing music for a long time. It is by far one of my favorite albums of his, especially Yom Adonai, the Day of the Lord. It's the song is beautiful, very powerful. So anyway, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. You can go to IBSI.org and find out more about the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. IBSI.org stands for Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. You can see all of our social media on the bottom of that page here. I got my different screens happening here. Thankful for our staff who's keeping me on point as always. If Olga can jump in, there's been some technical issues where she is remotely, but if she's able to jump in, they'll let me know. She may not be able to. I know she wanted to share a couple of things and anxious to hear about those as well. Again, you're stuck with me for now, and we'll see what happens from here. This is Monday, April the 29th, I believe. Tomorrow's the last day of April, and we're headed for May. We got a lot of different things planned for May. So we'll get into that a little bit on today as well. So you can go to IBSI.org. We're also a nonprofit organization. Our focus is the solidarity between the Black and Jewish Africa, Israel, and Black and Jewish communities, Africa, Israel, and the region. And so we have partners throughout the country in different parts of the region, including in Africa and in Israel. If you want to be a part of what we're doing, we are a nonprofit. You can give tax-deductible donations to IBSI.org/donate. IBSI.org/donate. For those of you on IG, you can't see those other screen things, so you're just seeing, or you're obviously hearing me. I guess you hear me okay. You haven't gotten any flag on there. Hey, what's up, Miss Brandy? I see Miss Brandy out there in the LA area or the Inland Empire area. How you doing, ma'am? Supposed to be coming out there at some point, hopefully later on this summer. I think I'll double check. I'll be in Northern California as well a little bit later on. Headed to Dallas on tomorrow. We'll have the honor of taping a segment at Daystar with Minister Joni and some of the others out there. Shout out to Rabbi Miles Weiss out there in Southern California, who introduced me to some of the staff. Really appreciate you all doing that. We can hear you perfectly. Thank you, Miss Kristen. And then headed to DC from there after later on this week. So head on a plane tomorrow to Dallas, be there a couple of days, then going to DC, have some meetings there. One of those will be a private meeting with some Black pastors and leaders that are there as we're talking about what's happening with Israel, the Black community, Africa, all of those things. So we're looking forward to that. All right. Got a lot to get into. So staff, just remind me, give me those heads up and everything, because I'm probably going to forget stuff as I start to get into this here, because my goodness, we got some stuff to man. So I think that's the first part, right? Am I forgetting something else there, Miss Producer? I did the donor. You can donate. You can go to ibsi.org. You can also go to events. You find about stuff. Substack. Thank you very much. ibsi.substack.com. That's Africa Israel Weekly, which we'll be talking about here in just a second, because the latest article was written by our executive director, and the title of it is "The Naked Truth." Right. We're going to be dealing with, like I said, a couple of different things. The title of that article, that first article, is called "The Naked Truth." Let me get up here. The subtitle is "How the Warnings About Colleges and Universities Were Ignored." Right. So we're going to get into that in just a second. But if you want to check out the article, go to Africa. Well, you can go to ibsi.substack.com, or you can just go to ibsi.org, click on Africa Israel Weekly, and you will see the article there. The latest article, all of our articles are there, written by different ones on our staff and different guests as well, writers and everything. Professor Ansel Brown out there at North Carolina Central University, HBCU. Shout out to you, Professor Brown, my brother. Others as well have written and contributed and everything. Miss Connie Morgan, one of our IBSI ambassadors. Shout out to you, Connie. Oh, I didn't think about this, but yes, Free Black Thought. Shout out to all of our friends out there at Free Black Thought. Appreciate you all. One of their latest podcasts, if not their last podcast, I'm not sure if it's the very last one, they interviewed our good friend and colleague, Mr. Charles Jacobs, Dr. Charles Jacobs, about the Arab enslavement of Africans throughout the region. It's a very, very, very powerful segment. Charles has been in this space for a very, very, very long time. He's not 100 years old. I'm just saying for a long time, right? I remember seeing his work back in the 90s, right? So Connie Morgan interviewed him. Connie, you did a stellar job as usual. Charles, you did a great job. Appreciate you all. So check that out. freeblackthought.com. I think that's what it's called. Is this how you get there? This was not planned, right? But check out that interview that's on their podcast. And he also, thank you so much, Free Black Thought. Right there it is. Freeblackthought. There is it. Yep, absolutely. So you can go there, freeblackthought.com. Check out that podcast. And he also gives a shout out to the Africa Jewish Alliance, the African Jewish Alliance. You can go to that website as well, africanjewishalliance.org. It is an organization of, again, Africans, both in the diaspora, well, mostly in the diaspora, some on the continent, as well as Jewish people in the diaspora and in Israel, who've come together to bring awareness to what is the Islamic extremism that is running roughshod, not just obviously what Hamas did on October the 7th, as we've said, happens every week in Sudan, happens every week in Nigeria. And unfortunately, the Islamic extremists are killing Christians, Jews that are there, like the Jews of Nigeria, and other Muslims, right? So this is actually a huge problem. And so these Jews and Africans have come together to bring awareness. So IBSI is proud to be a part of that alliance as well. So you go to African Jewish Alliance to find out more about that as well. All right. So I think we're good. So now we got to get into a few different things. So I'm only pausing because I told my wife I'm gonna try to start calm, at least, because I talk loud. Right? I always talk loud. Like my kids, they're all grown now, but they hear daddy yelling. So that's why my kids are loud, because their father's loud, and the only way you can be heard in the house is if you're loud. All right, so let's go to this first. The Naked Truth: How the Warnings About Our Colleges and Universities Were Ignored. I'll say something else about the whole Christian persecution thing in a minute, I think, but let me start here. And I'm choosing my words carefully. That's why I'm pausing. I know what I want to say. I got to be careful how I say it. The only people who are surprised about the Hamas cult-like activity happening on campuses across the country are the people who weren't aware. Either they don't know about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, how it plays out in the United States, those types of things. However, those in the pro-Israel space, especially those who do campus activism, sharing, all those kind of things, if they've been in this space any period of time, have known how bad it is for a long time. The explosion of Jew hatred and America hatred, burning the flags and calling for the killing of Jews and those types of things that are happening in places like Columbia University and George Washington and MIT and Harvard and on, UCLA, and all the different things that are going on, the different iterations of this pro-Hamas, anti-American, anti-Israel, the whole thing. None of this is new. This has been going on for decades, not just a couple of years, for decades. We pointed out the fact that Dr. Charles Jacobs, same person we talked about before, he and his crew did a video entitled Columbia Unbecoming in 2004, in which they were warning the people on campus and those in the pro-Israel space, everybody, of the danger of what was happening there with radical faculty members, curriculum, and what was their concern about the kids being radicalized. This was 20 years ago. Even then, it was already a problem, but 20 years ago, there were people like Charles Jacobs and a few others who were sounding the alarm. Mort Klein of the Zionist Organization of America and some others. That is not a bashing of or attacking of. It's just, I stated this before, in order to address something and rectify it, to fix something wrong, to bring some sort of restoration, healing, whatever word you want to use, you have to understand first how it got there. Person goes to the doctor. Doctor, this hurts, that hurts. And the doctor start shoving pills and injecting it. I'm not a doctor, but at least ask a few questions, right? About this, how long have you felt this? What is this? Let's check out your diet. Let's check out different things like this. What is your weight? All that kind of stuff. Why? Because I have to understand not just the symptoms of what's going on. You can apply it to anything, right? As in ministry, we as pastors, someone comes, pastor, pray for me. XYZ is going on. I want to talk about my life, my family, this, that, and the other. And the pastor may be listening and praying and everything. And if the pastor or rabbi or imam has any sage advice, they may ask a couple of questions, right? Hey, I'm praying for you, right? XYZ, how is this? How is that? All right. And if, depending on who they are, they may have some advice, right? Okay. You might want to, this right here, check out that. Okay, this is a toxic relationship for you. You might want that kind of thing. Why? Because if I'm invested in trying to actually fix or help or assuage or something, then I need to be able to understand, and I need to how something got there. It wasn't like it was hunky-dory at the college campuses until after October 7th, and all hell broke loose after that. Yes, all hell broke loose after October 7th, but that is not where it started. I remind everyone listening that the Gaza war of 2021, just less than 3 years ago, the spring, May of 2021, we're almost at the 3-year anniversary of it, in which Jews were being beat up or chased in places like New York and LA. Then that was 3 years ago. When that happened, we told our staff, we have crossed the Rubicon. Many factors are involved, faculty, administration, all the money, the billions of dollars. Let me get back to the article, right? So in the article, The Naked Truth, how the warnings about our colleges and universities were ignored. Again, Africa Israel Weekly. I'm going to read just a clip from the article. It was written by executive director. You can go to IBSI.org, find Africa Israel Weekly, boom, right? It is a subscription. You can do a paid subscription or whatever. You can read it if you don't subscribe. But again, if you do a paid subscription, we appreciate you, and you help us do the work of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, right? I'm going to read the first paragraph. Columbia University in New York has been in the spotlight. Over 100 students were engaged in an anti-Israel protest, chanting slogans like "Death to the Zionist State" and "Intifada, Intifada," among other such statements. Several students have been suspended, including a student named Isra Hersey, daughter of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. That's the first paragraph. Second paragraph. The Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel has and always will stand against Jew hatred, whether it comes from Christians, Muslims, blacks, whites, academia, or anywhere else. In doing so, however, our fighting would be in vain if we simply shut our eyes and ears and parroted the talking points we hear around us. I'm reading from the article. Again, it's called The Naked Truth, How Warnings About Colleges and Universities Were Ignored. It is, go to ibsi.substack.com, ibsi.substack.com, or go to ibsi.org, click on Africa Israel Weekly. You'll see the article. Third paragraph. I'm reading, quote, "The truth is what is happening at Columbia University, much like what is happening on other campuses like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, UC Berkeley, and MIT, just to name a few, way more than that, is what is called a train wreck in slow motion. The anti-Israel, anti-Jewish rhetoric has been preached in the lecture halls by professors for decades. This may be a surprise to some who read this, but it was not a surprise to many leaders in this space." Fourth paragraph. "In 2004, IBSI coalition partner Dr. Charles Jacobs and his team produced a documentary about Columbia University professors' aggressive anti-Israel indoctrination." 2004, 20 years ago. Says the film is linked here. It's linked there. You can check it out in the article if you want to see the film. There's a Vimeo, but there's also a YouTube link for it, so you can see it. It's about 28 minutes or so. Check out. It's a documentary done 20 years ago. Check it out. Right. It says once completed, the video, the document was completed. It was presented to a large group of pro-Israel organization leaders from all over the country. Charles expresses his frustration as each of them refused to share the documentary, quoting Charles Jacobs. "With this film, we tried to warn everyone what was coming. It was a smallish problem then. If you nip cancer in the bud, you might cure it. But if left to metastasize, you have what we now face on American campuses, a tsunami of Jew hate, well-organized and well-funded, that is fast becoming to dominate campus culture." Continuing Charles Jacobs' quote, "Back when the problem was the radical professors who intimidated and harassed Jewish students, back then, that's what the problem was, right? Radical professors who intimidated and harassed Jewish students. Now it's the entire left-wing student groups on campus, plus the Arab and Muslim students, plus all money that Arab and Muslim regimes donate to American universities that do not have to be publicly disclosed," end quote. That's just the first three paragraphs and then 2 paragraphs from Charles quoting. That's from the piece. You got to read the piece. Within the piece, again, Africa Israel Weekly or ibsi.substack.com, you'll see the naked truth, right? That's the title of the article. There are links that Joshua provides in the article, right? The links, like I said, for example, for the Columbia Becoming, the actual video that was made 20 years ago about the campus problem then, right? And it was a problem before then. I'm just saying they made a video about it. This is just one example of many who have warned about what was going on. But one of the other links, when I read the point where he said, plus all the money that Arab and Muslim regimes donate to American universities, the link that's actually there, if you look at the video, if you look at the article, that link is from an article from 2023, last year, 3 months ago, written by Robert Williams, a Gatestone article. And you don't have to put this. I didn't put this one on his producer. I just clicked on it. It's entitled "Dark Money Nightmare: How Qatar Bought the Ivy League." Yes, Qatar. Qatar is the Middle East nation in which the Hamas leaders live. They have been in the negotiations between Israel and Hamas for a ceasefire. They are not just bit actors, and they are not impartial. They definitely have a side in this. They are the owners, if you will, the controllers of Al Jazeera media, which is a Muslim Brotherhood outlet, we'll come into that in a moment as well. We'll make that connection, right? So Qatar is not the only one, but this article talks about Qatar, a couple of others, and it also cites the ISGAP, ISGAP. It is called for the Institute for Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. Led by a colleague, Mr. Charles Asher Small. And this article, which is December 23, which is linked in the other article, The Naked Truth, which came out the other day, IBSI. These are just 2 of an innumerable amount. Ladies and gentlemen, what is happening on our college campuses is not a surprise to the people who've known that the campuses have been these hotbeds of Jew hatred, Israel hatred, America hatred, Christian hatred, Western hatred for decades. The problem for all of us is that October the 7th brought it more to the forefront and even tapped into the inner Jew hatred of a bunch of other people on the left and the right. But right now, just for a moment, we're talking about the progressive controlled college campuses. These young people, and let me say something about this really. There was a video that went viral. They were interviewing some young lady who was at Columbia's campus. She came from another campus. She went to the Hamas encampment. They asked her, did she know what she was protesting? And she said no. And we all got a good chuckle. She, no, do you know our brother's kind of there, right? I mean, it's not funny, but just it was funny in a pathetic sort of way. But here's what I would say to the adults. Everyone from the presidents and the regents of these universities, the board members, the Congress members who've known that this dark money, like from places like Qatar, has been flooding into these campuses by the billions, right? I recommend you read these articles, ladies and gentlemen. At least inform yourself about what's going on, right? Here's what I have to say. What's sadder? The fact that these children have been brainwashed by Islamists and Hamas talking points in propaganda media, or the adults who allowed it to happen. The members of Congress who looked the other way instead of actually pursuing what could very well be violations of U.S. law by these rogue, these terrorist state actors having access to our universities. As a matter of fact, ISGAP actually talks about it, how they can't just donate, but they've kind of to universities directly, but they've gotten around that by people setting up NGOs. Okay, so what's worse? Those young people who are there now, having been manipulated, now spouting all this anti-Jewish, anti-American stuff, or the adults who are responsible? There is a concept within the conversations of the Hebrew prophets in which God consistently rebukes the oppressor. Those who have agency, who have power, who are, again, this is the real version, not that whole Marxist, who's good, who's bad, who's black, who's white. That's foolishness, right? We're actually talking about those with authority, whether those be prime ministers, presidents, governors, pastors, rabbis, imams, parents, teachers, those with authority. The word of God very clearly charges us with that type of authority, that type of control, that type of real influence over people's lives, that we are to handle those people in a fear of God and in a reverence for God, because they are God's creation. This is what Nehemiah literally says to the Jewish leaders who are exploiting the poor Jews in the rebuilding of the wall, and the rebuilding and the reconstruction, the reinstituting of Torah. Nehemiah is one of the reformers of that time, Ezra Nehemiah. And when he sees Jews that are in power actually taking advantage of those Jews who are poor, he rebukes them. Not because they're Jews, because they're in power. He says to them, don't you fear God, right? So a leader is to fear God in serving the people that he or she leads. These young people, for decades now, those are not even young people anymore, have been allowed to be indoctrinated, brainwashed, unduly influenced by biased, radicalized professors, curriculum. All kinds of money has gone into these, billions of dollars from these states, in order for these kids to hear this completely. Well, shout out to everybody out there. I see that. I saw rolling up there. Perhaps out, Pastor Tim, what's up? See that? Shout out. I see some of these folks are logging in there. They've been allowed. So here's the thing. The kids, yes, they have very much been brainwashed. They don't know. I said it before, couldn't find Gaza on a map. But even when I say stuff like that, it's not a deriding of the young people. They don't know what they don't know. You know who did know? The folks who took money from Qatar. The leaders of those universities. What's up, Pastor? Those Congress people who were in charge of those types of things, those in Congress, those in the administrations, not just this one, going all the way back, those who allowed Islamist money to flood our campuses and now want to wring their hands up, oh, the children, man, the Lord rebuke you. You are even more responsible. Why? Because in the economy of God, he holds responsible those who are in charge. As a matter of fact, Jesus says that for those who would exploit and harm little ones, it would be better. Come on, Christians, what did he say? It would be better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and be cast into the sea. It's not that the children have been indoctrinated. That's bad. And we're seeing this ugly thing, the waving of Hezbollah flags and all the other kind of stuff in the streets. And all. It's the people who allowed it to happen. And why? The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. If Sally, Jane, Thomas, Jamal, Lisa, all these kids graduated from high school, enrolled in this college, their parents are paying $40, $50, $60, $70,000 plus a year, sending their kid to school to get an education, as we say back in the day. They want them to become a doctor, a lawyer, a scientist, or whatever else like that, whatever they're going to do, right? They didn't sign up for their kid to be radicalized. So they trusted those institutions to teach their children. And what was going on with their kids for decades? Free Palestine, right? From the river to the sea. Zionists are evil. They're evil, wicked, white oppressors. White people are all evil. Stand up, all the people of color. They've been learning all this stupidity. You know what's amazing too? You know what also has happened over these several decades? The illiteracy rates of American students. Yeah. The literacy rates high. Literacy rates, boom. But our students can't read. They can't do generally, they can't do critical thinking. This is what's actually happening now. This is why you have stuff like Queers for Palestine. Yes, people who are part of the LGBTQ community waving Palestinian flags, talking about we stand with the Hamas. Okay, are you serious right now? Why? Because they've been brainwashed. Oh, they're walking up to about black. If you're really a black man, black woman, you would stand with Hamas. You would stand with Hamas, who's ideologically aligned with Boko Haram, who is slaughtering people who look like me. Right? Right. So I'm supposed to stand with the people who are enslaving other black people. Man, you crazy. But that's how people talk when they've been brainwashed. And they've been brainwashed in institutions paying $70,000 a year. So folks making money getting over. Right? You should read that article. I'm going to stop there because I could go a little bit further. But I'm going to say, let me say this last thing. Just like the children, those on those campuses have been, I mean, when I say brainwashed, not even a real discourse about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. About 1947, 1948, about the Muslim Brotherhood being established in 1928, about the Mizrahi Jewish community. Not even a real conversation about the actual war in which 700,000 Arabs were in fact displaced, mainly because their leaders told them to leave so they could slaughter Israel and go back to their home. You have a lot of very complex things that not even have that conversation. So what happened in the pro-Israel space, and I'm really trying to, again, I say this in love to my fellow pro-Israel advocates. What happens is that we played the game. What's the game? Students for Justice in Palestine, I mean, the actual students who are part of those organizations. I'm not talking about the adults who manipulate them. I'm talking about the students now. Many of them are just as much victims as the pro-Israel or Jewish students. Why? Because they've been sold all their bill of goods, right? And they've been sitting there, don't you want to be a person of justice? Oh, yeah, well, Israel's committing genocide against Palestine. It's not true. And Israel's, starving Palestine. None of that is true. None of that is true, right? But the kids want to be on the right side of history. You with me? Right. So what the pro-Israel groups did, they raised money to raise up other pro-Israel student groups and put their pawns on the chessboard, meaning SJP students, their pawns, those organizations, sadly, are even at the very least, and there's all kind of records for this as well, indirectly connected to terrorist organizations, as well as the BDS movement itself. Hamas loves the BDS movement, right? So instead of the pro-Israel organizations focusing on the fact that those anti-Israel student groups are actually the foot soldiers or even pawns on the chessboard of the organizations that are controlling them, what the pro-Israel groups did was raise money to put their own students on the chessboard. Mm-hmm. Why? For lots of reasons. Visuals, right? So I take a picture of we tabled today. we raised awareness, and it's the home of the cherry tomato in Israel, and it exports, and it does all kinds of wonderful things. It does, right? It's the first responder and all. We're going to go there and advocate for Israel, which is fine, and then they raise money to take the kids to Israel. Fine, right? But you haven't addressed the root of the problem. It's the fact that these terrorist organizations like Qatar, this nation, is funding and flooding our campuses with all of this terrorist disinformation. So instead of dealing with that, they simply put students on there to combat the disinformation. And many of those kids got traumatized, not just spit on and talked about at those tables, right? Death threats, all kinds of stuff. So now, the reason why those pro-Israel groups feel so emboldened is because they've been doing this crap for decades. So after October 7th, then they're like, hey, we're going all full out, right? We're going to go ahead and commandeer this entire section of the university, right? And we're going to bar it. Jewish people can't enter. The guy, I don't remember his name, one of the professors at Connell University, he tried to have access to the place where it was and everything. They deactivated his card. This happened just in UCLA as well. Some young Jewish student was trying to walk through, and there was Zionists and Jews. I mean, are you serious? It's segregated Selma. They are straight up segregated South up in these schools and everything, and somehow that's just cool. It's been coming for a long time. Ain't nobody said nothing about it. And so some of the folks wringing their hands now unfortunately are also complicit. Why? Because they saw how bad it was, but didn't want to. Well, if we call out what they're doing and it being radical, they may call us Islamophobes. How did that work out? Again, we don't want to say something bad about Black Lives Matter because we want to be cool, hip, and with. How did that work out? Right? How did it work out? Did you tell the truth? So, okay, yeah, fine. Black Lives Matter. Absolutely, we stand against discrimination, all kinds of racism. But this group is actually talking about the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's condemning Israel as a genocide. Oh, what that got to do with George Floyd? What that got to do with Mike Brown? Speak up, bro. Man up and say it from your chest. Nope, we don't see those things because we don't want to. Okay, right. So now where we are, right? And here's the thing. The reason why it's going to get much worse before it gets better, because everything I'm telling you is still in place. We've learned nothing. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about folks who have been red-pilled, parents who've been horrified. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the gatekeepers are still there. Still talking the same nonsense. Well, the real issue is the white supremacists. What about the whole, what's that again? Jews will not replace us. You know what? Wow. Okay, so yeah. How about this? Can we condemn the white dudes with tiki torches and condemn the Islamists take over our campuses? I mean, why it got to be one or the other? How many white dudes with tiki torches are marching around Columbia University? Are you following me? How many Klan student groups are at USC? None, right? But how many Students for Justice in Palestine and Muslim Student Association campuses are there in which now they're participating in these demonstrations on these campuses in which Jews are being barred from it? People are being beat up. People are being castigated. I mean, Ami Horowitz just did a video where he went to CUNY, right? City University of New York. What did he do? He went in the middle thing. He waved the American flag. Well, it's just because he's trying to intimidate. He's waving an American flag in America. He got beat up, hit on, all this stuff, and then the security arrested him, told him to get out, right? Been going on for a long time. Just whatever gloves were on, they're off now. So there's a lot of blame to go around. And as someone said on my wall the other day, Pastor, it's not time for blame. I'm trying to get past this first thing, Miss Producer. Let me say something about blame. I said this on my wall. Let me say it again for those of you listening. All the parents in the house say amen. All right, we're going to repeat. Parents, especially of young children. Now, if your kids are adults now, this won't as much apply to you, maybe to your grandkids. Saying, I told you so, is the best thing you can do for a child who's learned from his mistakes. Come on. Now, listen to me. Listen to the whole thing. Not, I told you so in a vindictive, your child messed up and now you're laughing at them. No. They did something they weren't supposed to do. You told them and now it blew up in their face. And now you want to roll on the floor. Don't humiliate your child like that. That's not what I'm talking about. The I told you so I'm talking about is you told your child what to do or not do. he or she did or didn't do what you told them to not do or do. They did the opposite. You with me? You following me? It played out exactly like you told them it was going to. And now they're sitting in their sackcloth and ashes. You know what you do? You give them a tissue. They wipe their nose. You give them a hug. You let them know you love them. And you know what you do? You told them, this is the reason why I told you X, Y, Z. Why? That's how you learn. That's how you teach your child to accept responsibility for what he or she did wrong. You should never say I told you so. Wrong. Wrong. Young parents, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. No, you say I told you so to the person, to the child, to the person you're raising up when they've blown it and they didn't listen. Why? That's how they learn, right? The scriptures are replete with it. God is our heavenly Father, and the word of God says he chastens us. One of my favorite songs, Mrs. Kristen Fred Hammond's Our Father. And because you love, you chasten us if we should go astray. It's based on the scripture, like a father. So what happens is that, like a heavenly Father, he then chastens us when we step out of line. And for those of you who are not religious, don't listen to this part. Go do something else. I'm talking to the folks who understand what I'm talking about, right? So when we're talking about how the campus got here, and we're saying it's these progressive gatekeepers who've allowed all this crap in, and these feckless politicians who allowed all this money in there, now is not a time for blame. Now is exactly a time for blame. No, you know what? You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can address the immediacy of the situation and also talk about how we got here. Because guess what happens when you don't unpack how you got here? Exactly. You wind up here again. That's why we've been doing this for decades. That's why when Charles Jacobs made the video and he showed it to the folks back in 2004 and they didn't listen, and now we're here. Why? Because they weren't going to listen. They didn't listen, and now we're here. So if they're not listening still, guess what happens from here? It gets worse. It gets worse. I'm not saying in a good way. Absolutely not. I mean, I want the kids safe too. I'm an American too. I want us to have freedom of religion and freedom of expression, all that kind of stuff too. So this jihadist stuff going on over there, this communist stuff going on here is shutting down everybody's stuff eventually. So I'm invested. My children are no longer college age. I have one last child who's taking some college courses out here in North Carolina, but all kids are graduated and gone on. Why do I care? Because I care about this country. Your child don't have to be my child for me to care about what's going on with your child. That's what's wrong now. Philippians talk about don't let every man look to another man's and not to him himself. Selfishness is destroying this nation. Yep, that's why you have politicians taking money from Qatar or allowing money to come in from Qatar, knowing full well what Qatar is doing. Why? Money. Why? Power, status, whatever. I'm done with that part. So, yes. So, a lot of blame to go around. And now is the exact time for the blame. I'm not talking about blame and go start beating somebody up and burning something down. I'm talking about you better very clear. You betting, man. Play that game if you want to. Score this. I'm sorry. You play that game if you want to. I'm not going to. Well, y'all need to come together. How we go come together and we still ain't on the same page? How can two walk together? So how we go to it? Let's just all come together. Wait a minute. So I'm supposed to just come together with the person who's part of the reason why we here? Oh, we don't come together. We're going to have a conversation. Come, let us reason together first. Oh, no, we're going to talk about it. Because if you are still doing stuff that's helping the other side. Oh, I'm sorry. That's too loud. Okay, I'm sorry. My staff told me I'm being too loud because it's distorted. Let me bring it down. Oh, you know what? They should have told me that before. Did they message me? They messaged me. Okay, yeah. I didn't see my other thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm the wrong seat. Yep. I'm always like, I told you in the beginning I'm loud. So let me bring it down. I'm distorted. Let's see here. I want to bring the thing down because I might start yelling again. Because that was just the first thing. I haven't done the other stuff yet. I gotta. Who goodness gracious. All right, so we go testing 1, 2, 3. Yep. I don't have that other thing that's there. So, Miss Producer, if you can, you might want to bring it down a little bit. So I'll do both. Let's cooperate. I'm gonna bring it down. I'm too loud. Be loud, bro. Pastor Tim, I'm loud, right? But here's the thing: they telling me it's distorted in the thing, and so I'm too loud. But I should have set the mic on a different thing. So my apologies, everyone. So, well, if you listen and then you probably done turned it down on your little device already. So yeah, give you a chance to drink a little water. Goodness gracious. I'm loud, folks. It's from my mama and my daddy. Well, my daddy wasn't loud. They're both opinionated, but my mama was loud. So they both go home to be with the Lord, but my mom was loud. So get it from my mom. All right. So anyway, no, this is a time to assign blame. This is time to man up and accept blame, right? and then do better. Was it Maya Angelou said you did what you knew to do, and when you knew better, you did better? Was that Maya Angelou who said that? How you gonna know better and do better if you don't admit how do I grow? How do I learn? How do I mature if I'm not willing to look at what I did that blew it and say, hey man, I blew it. Hey, that's on me. My bad, dog. I did that, right? So at some point, you got to grow up, man. Anyway, so next part here. So and then y'all can help me. I was on the other screen because I was reading from there. So staff, make sure you message me or whatever like that if I'm missing something else. And that's the other thing too. I'm gonna pause private chat. Please help. Okay, the sound gets a little distorted. Okay, yeah, there we go. I didn't have the private chat thing on there. I forgot to put it on there. All right, so I have to stop yelling. I have to bring it down. All right. So yeah, I'm bringing it down. My staff said bring it down. And folks are like, preach. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I don't get it too, because it's a habit of mine. All right, so that's the first thing. That was the first item. I'll leave that one alone. So check out that article, ibsi.substack.com. Click on The Naked Truth. That's the article. Or you can go to ibsi.org, click on Africa Israel Weekly, and read that article. Again, we have to. Again, I'm saying it again. You have to deal with how you got somewhere. Otherwise, you are not going to fix anything. You're not going to fix anything just blowing kisses and hugs and then wipe the snot and all that kind of stuff. But we got to do, okay, what happened? And let's course correct, right? You got to course correct. All right, that's first thing. All right, second thing. All right. Sorry for being so loud. Commentary magazine. Yeah. All right. So now, the other one here, I want to take a look. There is another article. This was on Commentary Magazine. This isn't one of ours. This is actually written by Seth Mandel for Commentary Magazine. It is Hamas propaganda gets a pass from disinformation watchdogs. It's actually it's a op-ed. Sorry. Tickle my throat. April 26th, about 3 days ago. Excellent piece. It's a short read, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And it actually talks about how the media, it focuses on CNN, but it uses as an example, is being spoon-fed Hamas talking points, which is why the people who are watching those things, CNN, MSNBC, and particularly left-leaning organizations, right? Particularly, it talks about the whole progressive model, that kind of stuff. That's why they believe Israel's committing genocide. It's not happening in Gaza. It's not, or anywhere else. That Israel is starving. The Palestinians are starving. It's a famine. That's not happening, right? The whole Rafah hospital thing, Israel attacked the hospital and killed that didn't happen. The mass grave was found of 300 bodies at this other hospital in Israel. We think that Israel, that none of that was accurate the way they reported it. And they're saying because the checks and balances that are supposed to be there are no longer there. Seth Mandel writes an excellent piece. Again, it's in Commentary Magazine, titled Hamas Propaganda Gets a Pass from Disinformation Watchdogs. Disinformation is in quotes. And I really want to recommend it to you. There is one part I wanted to read here, right? Can I read it here? Yes. Yes. Here's about the 6th paragraph in that article, right? I'm just going to read this part. Quote, this is Seth Mandel's article in Commentary Magazine about the Hamas propaganda. Quote, the sad part about the disinformation scam is that disinformation does exist. You just wouldn't know it by the attempts of progressive political activists like Jankowicz. This is the young lady who was part of the whole Biden's disinformation team, have turned its pursuit into McCarthy partisan campaign. Indeed, the entire Israel-Hamas war since October 7th has been infused with reporters startlingly unethical allegiance to obvious Hamas propaganda. That propaganda benefits progressive allies of the disinformationists, so it gets a pass. He goes all in. I really recommend you checking out this article. So he talks about not only the fact that it's Hamas feeding these talking points to the media, he also says that because they're progressives in the media who are cool with Israel being demonized, this is how people are being subjected to this propaganda and believe that Israel is doing all these evil things. Can you speak to the so-called loss of life Palestinians as well as the so-called Israel disruption of humanitarian aid and Palestinian aid. So Pastor Tim McMurtry, one of our good friends and colleagues out there in the Milwaukee, shout out to him, and Pastor Skip, Pastor Melva, all those our family out there at World Outreach Church there. Appreciate you all. Pastor Tim, I will touch on it just briefly what's happening here. We've shared different articles and information about that loss of life in Gaza, that not only is Israel not committing genocide, but it has the best, and I know we're talking about human beings, statistically, it is the best military on the planet when it comes to eliminating hostiles and terrorists, proportionate to the unfortunate civilians who may be in harm's way. Again, I've shared this before. It is impossible to eliminate terrorists, to eliminate hostiles who are embedded amongst the civilian population without some of those civilians being harmed. Israel does not only is Israel not committing genocide, it is doing the best at it. Number two, there's plenty of humanitarian aid that gets into Gaza. The problem is that Hamas hoards it, which I'll come back to that in a second. They take the food, they take the water, they take anything that's actually going to, they hoard it for themselves, and the stuff they do allow the other people to have, they sell it at marked up prices. And again, Hamas, the top leaders of Hamas are worth $11 billion, right? And the other ones are millionaires, right? They're very wealthy. They're the only political party. They're a corrupt terrorist political party that runs Gaza completely, right? And so when you hear the Gaza Ministry of Health reported on X, Y, and Z, or the fill in the blank, the Gaza, whatever, that's Hamas. That's Hamas. It would be like the Ku Klux Klan, which ran virtually every municipal and every law enforcement arm of different parts of the segregated South, and them then reporting on themselves to everyone else. They would not tell you the truth. They would not tell you we lynched this many Negroes last week. They would not tell you we burned down this black man's farm. They would not tell you. They're not going to tell you any of those things. So if you listen to this is why those who lost the Civil War but wanted to sow disinformation seeds, they call it the War of Northern Aggression, and said that slavery had nothing to do with it, when it's very clear that even the Confederate States said that they were going to war in part because of their desire to maintain slavery, right? So Hamas is lying about what's going on, right? So they can get the world community on their side. You read that article from Seth Mendel, because he also talks about how even policy, including U.S. policy, is some of it being shaped by the lies coming out of Gaza, right? And then we're talking about, and those who are supposed to be watching, both Israeli and other Arabs who are not even in Jerusalem, but who were part of that real watchdog team checking the truth of what's being reported on. They are no longer in place. They go straight to, and they use the example of Christian Amanpour from CNN. So check out that article, right? Check out that article there by Seth Mandel on Commentary Magazine. Again, Hamas propaganda gets passed from disinformation watchdog. Staff, I'm doing all right, right? I haven't started yelling again, right? I think we're good, right? It was started to sound, it's a little distorted when you yell. Okay, all right. So, all right, yeah, so I'm gonna back it up. That's the other thing too. I gotta make sure I keep the mic back from there. Yes, sir. So y'all make sure you get those articles. Again, there's plenty of information that not just us, other organizations share information. They share articles written by very, very capable. I'm not a journalist. That's not what I do in terms of my profession, but there are some professional journalists out there, right? And different mediums. Go to Gatestone Institute. You can check out, there's many different ones. It's failing me right now, but if you go, we post them on ours, on our site. Share them with other people. There are people who are doing what they're Palestinian human rights activists like Bassam Aid and the Arab-Israeli journalist Khaled Abu Twame, who writes for Gatestone. And there's accurate information out. It's not like it doesn't exist. It's just that the prevailing narrative on TikTok and on CNN and some of these others, unfortunately, right, are not being filtered in terms of truth. In other words, the lack of filter, meaning Hamas just telling the lie. No one's actually picking apart the lies that they're telling. So this has been, again, none of this is new. It's just on a different level now, post October 7th, right? Okay, all right. So check out that article. I want to do one more, if I can. Yep, man. Time is. I'm spending a lot of time yelling at y'all and everything. I'm bad. Not yelling at y'all. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just yelling, right? I need to do this last one if I can. All right. There's one other article. It was actually originally in Just the News, but we posted it from the Foreign Desk. Shout out to Miss Lisa Daftari out there, Foreign Desk in LA, and our Persian Jewish friends out there as well. The whole community, Carmel Malamed, and others, everything. Appreciate all the work you guys do. This article is entitled, Israel Security Bill Includes Relief Aid 4 times the size of Gaza's GDP. Quote, we are funding Hamas, which is a quote, actually, I believe from Mort Klein, the head of Zionist Organization for America. All right, I need to, I'm not going to yell. I'm going to, in this article, the piece that I just, again, this is, you can get it at the Foreign Desk. And then they put, those of you who can see the video of this, some of you are just listening to it. Well, no, everybody can see it, but Instagram, you can't see the screen shares. You'll see that title, if you type in that title, you'll see Israel Security Bill Includes Relief Aid 4 times the size of Gaza's GDP. You'll see that on there, right? Okay. I'm sorry, put it one more time. And then the subtitle on there is the Israel bill allocates $26.4 billion in aid to the region, including more than $9.1 billion marked for humanitarian assistance, in quotation marks, local journalist says. An armed militia of Hamas regularly seizes that aid. Okay. A little bit more tough love for those of us in the Israel space. I've made this statement for a while, and I want to, let's see here. There is a raging debate in the United States around foreign aid, not just to Israel, but to Ukraine and everywhere else, and domestic spending, which are two separate items. But again, it gets talked about in this context in large part, not just the only reason. You've had several different things that have risen up the debate about America's taxpayer dollars and where it goes and how. October the 7th, right? So Israel, Gaza, Hamas, all that stuff, boom. So the money and that's involved. Americans, even if not aware of the conflict, are hyper aware, at least of the talk around the billions of dollars, right? The 100-something billion that have gone to Ukraine, the billions that have gone to Hamas, Palestinian Authority, the billions that go to Israel in terms of its military aid and defense, all these things, right? So for the American who has no dog in the fight, they don't really understand the conflict or whatever. They're not, whatever. They're like going, we're billions, we're trillions in debt, and we are trillions of dollars in debt, right? So they are making the issue and making the case, right? As Americans who are saying, like, you know what? No foreign spending, period. They're not necessarily anti-Israel or whatever. They're like, you know what? No foreign spending. We can't afford to be blah, 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 blah. So that debate has been happening even more for all those reasons, right? However, and this is again to my pro-Israel brothers and sisters, Israel has a somewhat complicated relationship where the Israeli government is concerned, American government is concerned, in that a couple of things you should know. America doesn't just bundle up $2-3 billion at a time and just give it to Israel. That's not how that happens. They allocate money into the billions every couple of years, how often it is, depending what the package is, to Israel. And Israel, as I said before, largely can only spend that money on American weapons manufacturers. Right? It's like me giving you a gift certificate to the Dumisani store, like I said before, and I give you $1,000. Oh, thanks, Dumisani. Then you look on it, you can only come to my store. So I've given you the money to buy the stuff, but you can only buy it from me. So I'm not really giving you anything, right? Not to mention the fact that anything that you build from my store, the technology, I also have access to. So the United States is if it's not already, it is in the process of developing something like an Iron Dome, like Israel has, right? That's Israeli technology with American funding, and then boom, something amazing like the Iron Dome. And so we as Americans benefit from that as well because of our relationship. So, and it goes further than that. I'm just trying to give us a brief one. We can delve further into that a little bit later on. So I was looking for it again, the billions from that $26.4 billion that went to Israel. And somebody else may know on there. I'm not sure exactly how much of that goes to Israel. That part I don't remember. I'm looking on the article. Not that it's not important, it is, but I'm making a point here. Of the $26.4 billion to the region, I don't see it on there. Again, my apologies. I'm not that it's not important, but I messed that up on my little screen here. So the lion's share, I believe, goes to Israel. However, $9.1 plus billion goes to Gaza humanitarian aid. I do the air quotes, not because humanitarian aid is not important, but because anybody who knows anything about the region knows that the people of Gaza are not going to see that money. That's going to Hamas. Ladies and gentlemen, how the heck do you think they did October 7th in the first place? They get money from Qatar, they get money from Iran, and they get money from the United States. One of the first things the Biden administration did was open up the coffers, and he started flooding money to the Palestinian Authority, flooding money to UNRWA, which basically funds Hamas, right? You can't pull off on October 7th without the money and the training. You need equipment, you need your paragliding, all that kind of stuff. We pay for that. We helped pay for what happened to the Israelis. Absolutely, right? So it is what Eisenhower referred to as the military-industrial complex. He wasn't talking about Israel-Palestine. He was talking about our ability as Americans and this the military ability, the money, just the overwhelming might that we can bring. We are funding both sides of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And this is what I say very lovingly to my pro-Israel friends in America. If we are going to hoot and holler and be very happy about the money that the United States administration has given to Israel for its military, right? And I understand that, right? Because they have to defend themselves and everything. Here's the problem with that. The problem is this. They are defending themselves against the terrorists that we are funding. Yes, we give money to Israel to defend itself against the money that we gave to Hamas and the Palestinian Authority and the sanctions relief to Iran. I said it again, the 300 plus missiles and drones that Iran just sent at Israel, we helped pay for that. That's called the okie doke, y'all. The only person making out like a bandit like that are the weapons manufacturers, the Tony Starks, and not the funny ones from Iron Man. I'm talking about the real life ironmongers. Some people get upset when I say that. It's just true. So if we are going to stand with Israel, if we are going to, as Christians, pray for the peace of Jews and all those types of things, we also have to speak truth to power, right? I'm not dealing with the whole how much money. Let me say this. Israel gets the military spending, as does Egypt, as does Nigeria. Israel's not the only, and the people who single out Israel is probably because they either don't know or they're anti-Semites, one of the two, right? It's not about, Israel's not the only place in which America does foreign spending or aid. That's not the issue, right? For me, not here. For some people it is. It's not the issue. Here's my thing, that if I'm supporting Israel and I'm supporting whatever military aid for Israel, but I'm silent on the fact that we've just allocated $9.1 plus billion to Hamas. And for those who get cute about it, well, it's not to Hamas, it's to the humanitarian aid of Gaza. All right. So I could sell you a bridge to nowhere too, right? If you really think that they're gonna get that, they're not gonna get that money. Why would we believe that it would be any different now? How is this $9.1 plus billion going to Gaza going to get any more effectively to the people than the other billions that we've given to Gaza? And that don't count the European Union and other stuff that UNRWA is going to do separately that we give to UNRWA as well. We are funding. So we are giving billions to Israel's enemies while giving money to Israel, patting ourselves in the back about how pro-Israel we are as a nation. The old saints used to say, God don't like ugly. How do you go fund Amalek and Israel? Right? Did I stutter? How do you go give money to Amalek and money to Israel, talking about you stand with this? No. Okay. Can I just be real with it? If you have a friend who's helping you defend your house, hey, here's some money for a new alarm system. Hey, you need some new guns and ammunition and everything because you got some real bad actors in your neighborhood. He said, all right, man, thanks for that. I appreciate that. And then he give money to all the folks in your neighborhood trying to kill you and your family. What you go tell him? Thank you. All right, man. Shout out, man. You might. No. He's giving you money to buy weapons from him to defend yourself from the other people that he gave money and weapons to. He's making out like a bandit. And whether you live or die doesn't matter to him as long as he got somebody else to sell weapons to. I know this doesn't sound good. I tell folks before, I was telling them, I'm an American and I love my country. I love my country enough to speak truth to power. The duality, the duplicitousness of standing up. I don't care which president it is. And we just, the Congress as well, right? Congress, oh yeah, man, Israel, yeah, man, Israel. But they were crickets chirping. When, okay, but part of that package, part of the package that gave money to Israel gave nearly $10 billion to Hamas, ladies and gentlemen. That means this whole circus thing goes round and round. So even if my fellow pro-Israel advocates, we're going to speak truth to power, we're going to advocate for Israel. And okay, cool, I get that, right? But we gotta stand up and be counted if we're going to also fund, not just in terms of Hamas trying to destroy Israel. Are we defending the people in the Palestinian region, like the people in Gaza, who are not seeing that aid, who are paying exorbitant prices for food and supplies that our tax dollars already. So your tax dollars go to give billions to Hamas, who then takes the food from the Gazans so they can lie and say that Israel is starving. Are you seeing the game here? Do you see the game, right? So then Hamas will let them have access to food, but they sell it to them. This how much the flour costs this, and the lamb costs this. This costs. The videos have been out viral about that. What Hamas is doing, they are selling them stuff that you and I paid for with our tax dollars, and we got nothing to say about that. Nothing to say about that. That's not right. And be not deceived. God will not be made fun of. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also. We don't get to claim the whole "I'll bless those who bless you, curse you" when we giving money to Amalek. When we know what we're doing, we're giving money to Iran, right? We're cutting sanctions so that Iran can have more access. And what are they doing with that money? Another $10 billion a couple of weeks ago, 10, 20, whatever amount it was. What do you think they're doing with it? They funding terrorists and trying to destroy Israel and the West. We are paying for our own demise. That has to stop. At the very least, there has to be those who are going to stand up and say, okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. And there's not enough of that, right? And you give credence to those who are attacking the U.S. administration for helping Israel in the first place. Why? Because if we're going to be part of the system that's funding Israel and Hamas, and not hold anyone accountable for that system, when we're asking for more money for Israel or we're actually a part of the problem. Not that Israel is part of the problem. I'm saying we're part of the problem if we're not going to call it out. We have to. We got to do better with that. Okay, all right. So I stopped yelling as much. I hope it was okay. Okay, so now there was a couple of things we're supposed to get into. I knew it was probably going to go a little bit long because I got more to say, but I'm not going to go any further here. I'm going to wrap up here in a second. So all the yelling and the screaming and everything like that, I hope I didn't blow everybody's eardrums out and like that. I hope you guys turned it down. Let me say this, a couple of things. Number one, every Monday we're here 8 p.m. This is the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. We have some South Africa stuff to get into. We have some Black pastors things to get into. We can't do that on today, but stay tuned for that. If you want to receive our newsletter, go to ibsi.org, click, fill out the little thing on the bottom there. You can put your email address on there, boom, and you can receive. We send out about once or twice a week to let you know what we're doing, what's going on, sharing different articles and stuff like that. We got different stuff that's coming up. So again, I'm headed to God Say the Same, getting on a plane tomorrow, headed to Dallas, Texas to go tape a segment on Daystar. I believe with Joni Lamb. I'm saying I believe I'll be with Joni Lamb. I'll be honored to be with the minister there and the other parts of the parts of the show there. So again, looking forward to that. Shout out to Rabbi Miles Weiss who helped set that up. Appreciate you again, sir. And then from there, I'll be there a couple of days, and I'm headed to Washington, D.C. for a couple of different meetings, some Israel meetings, everything in, as well as a few Black pastors. There's my Black pastor friends and colleagues that are there in Washington, D.C. This is it's not a formal event, but it is a conversation with some of the Black pastors. Thank you, Pastor Tim. Thank you, sir. I'll send you guys the video to it and everything. Looking forward to taping that with them and at Daystar. Talking with some Black pastors, some strategic Black pastors in Washington, D.C., over the next couple of days. You know who you are already. We kind of reached out to you. There's other pastors that we know. We're doing a smaller thing there for those pastors that I didn't contact with you already, Black pastors in the DC area. I'll be back there later on in the later spring, I believe it is. And so we'll let you know exactly when that is for a formal IBSI event. But this is a conversation. We're having some strategic conversation. Pastor Tim, I want to have that kind of conversation out there in Milwaukee. I know I've been saying that, but I'll reach out to Pastor Melvin and everybody again, see if we come out there and just sit down with some group of just some pastors, sit down and talk together. IBSI will get the food, right? We'll sit down, and have a discussion, because there are this Israel, Palestine, Africa, Israel thing is impacting the Black community in America in ways that we must uncover and actually be even more prepared for, because it gets deeper from here. It really, really does. Man, I have to tease this. Those of you who haven't already, if you know who Pastor Mark Biltz is, he is a Christian pastor, but he's Jewish, does a lot of the Hebrew roots and all the kind of amazing. Mark is so deep. Both Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews platform him on their thing, right? And he came out with a book. I don't have the book with me right now. Shout out to you, Pastor Mark. You gave me that book. I let my friend read it. I'll get back in a couple of hours and be reading it on the plane. And when she talks about, among other things, the solar eclipse that just happened a few days ago, man, you guys blew my mind. The solar eclipse that crisscrossed the United States, it crossed right at the section of Illinois that was supposed to be a free state but had slaves. I didn't even know that part of the history, right? And man, we got to unpack that. So we're going to get into that, right? Because there's some things that God is saying, man. So the name of the book, someone said, which is it? Where is it? The book, Mark Biltz is Mark's name. Mark Biltz, Biltz. Biltz. Looks like Blitz, but it's Biltz. And I don't remember the exact name of the book. That's what I get for doing this, extemporaneously. Man, but he is the man. So yeah, Pastor Ministry, Pastor Tim, I see that on there a little bit there. They just shoot me out a text, bro, so we can talk about it. If that's something that you all are doing, and I can join you guys like that. I would love to do. I can see it a little bit, but my brother, I need glasses. At some point, I'm gonna have some glasses so I can actually see. I don't have it on here, but Mark Biltz. If you type it, if you Google Mark Biltz solar eclipse, Biltz Biltz solar eclipse. He's talked about on several different shows and everything like that. Amazing. But especially for the Black pastors and Black church leaders, man, we need to unpack that, because it's so, goodness gracious. Yeah, so we'll do that as well. So all right, everybody. Appreciate you. Went a little over time. Apologize for that. Also for being all nice and loud and everything like that. I get fired up, right? America at War. My staff is right on it. America at War is the name of the book. Thank you so much, staff. America at War by Mark Biltz. America at War is the name of the book. I've read some of it. I let one of my other friends, one of our church members, read it. And so I'm going to be reading it again myself as I get it. I finished reading it on the plane so I could check it out. All right. So yeah, there's so much. I mean, pastors, I'm telling you, it's both geopolitical, but it starts in the spiritual. There's a spiritual part of what's actually happened, and the Black leaders need to be so aware. All right, so I'm gonna stop right there. All right, so thank you everybody once again. This has been the Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I'm Dumasani Washington, founder and CEO of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. So appreciate you all joining us. We'll probably be joined by our younger staff members next week. They weren't able to make it here. Again, Joshua Washington is headed out to California. He has a tour that's going on in both Northern and Southern California. Go to joedavimusic.com. Joe Davi spells like it sounds, Jodavi, music.com, and you can find out his dates, where he's going to be. Olga's got some amazing plans as well. So you'll be hearing from her. And we have the things that we're working on. I can't really get into it right now, but our staff is in communication with some colleagues in New York about a radio show. I might be hosting a radio show in the next few weeks that'll be broadcast in the New York area. And then will be streamed as like a podcast type of thing. So don't have all the details about that, but just get a heads up about that. We're going to have a new page and all that kind of stuff. We'll let you know about what's going on like that. So it won't be IBSI. It'll be everything. We'll talk about Africa, Israel, the Black community. We'll be talking about culture, music, entertainment, parenting. There'll be a lot of different things that we'll be touching on, but the Israel, Africa, Zion part will be a healthy dose of it as well. So we kind of getting into some different things. All right. So I think that's it. Yes, I think that's it. All right. So thank you all so much for coming. Appreciate you all so much. Again, God say the same. We'll be back here Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern to continue to talk about these issues that concern this forum, which is the Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. Shout out to everybody. Appreciate you all. Talk to you soon.